And good evening. We are live tonight once again from Paris as Team USA dazzles in the City of Light. The Arc de Triomphe just behind me here, right? But it is USA swimmer Katie Ledecky reigning triumphant tonight after a stunning performance in the pool. It really was her race to begin with. The 1,500-meter freestyle is her strongest event. She owns the 20 fastest times in the event's history. So it was no surprise that Ledecky took gold with ease, lapping the rest of the competition with a notable pace far ahead of the rest. Ledecky now tied for the most gold medals of any U.S. woman in Olympic history. And I got to catch up with her just moments after the monumental win.
You started swimming when you were a little girl. What would you have told that little girl who spent all those hours in the pool, those 2-a-days, 3-a-days? If you could talk to her now, what would you tell her?
Just keep it up, keep having fun. I've always had fun in this sport.
And American Tori Husk also bringing home silver. This is her third medal of the Games already. Unfortunately, the male swimmers tonight did not make it to the podium. Jack Alexey failed to place in the men's freestyle, and four-time Olympic gold medalist Ryan Murphy shocked the crowd when he didn't qualify for the finals. The U.S. men's gymnastics struck out at the individual all-around, claiming no medals, though the team, of course, claimed the bronze on Monday, ending a 16-year team medal drought. Let's pull up the medal board. The U.S. still leading with 30 medals, with France and China right behind. And today's game wasn't for a medal, but men's basketball is off to a strong start after a tense match during an exhibition. USA had a much better game against South Sudan, winning by 17 points. Bam Adebayo, Kevin Durant, and LeBron James all putting up double digits on the scoreboard. There are a lot of new faces on the U.S. women's soccer team, but they're already proving unstoppable. The team defeated Australia today, officially qualifying for the quarterfinals, and athletes officially swam in the Seine, officials giving the green light after concerns about water quality. But men and women triathlon swimmers say the river left a bad taste in their mouths. Literally, athletes say they gulped down mouthfuls of water due to a strong current. Here's more on this historic day filled with moments of victory and disappointment.
25 meters left for Ledecky to make more history.
Tonight, Katie Ledecky sitting on top of the Olympic world.
And the greatest swimming machine we've ever seen rolls on to another gold here in Paris.
The superstar swimmer now tied for the most medals held by any American female Olympian with 12, blowing past her competition in the 1,500-meter freestyle, a race she has absolutely dominated for years to bring home the gold and set a new Olympic record.
Look and listen to this arena. They are going wild for one of the greatest ever, Katie Ledecky. She came to Paris chasing history. Tonight, no one could catch her. So take me back to the pool. You hit the wall, see you celebrating, see you come out, you just jump up in the air. Talk to me about that moment. Why was this one so special?
I just wanted to swim a time that I would be really happy with, and that was. And, you know, it's never easy to win a gold medal, so I don't take it for granted, and I'm just trying to take it day by day.
And she's not done yet. Ledecky will have 2 more chances to leave Paris as the most decorated female Olympian in U.S. history.
What more can America expect from you at these Paris Games?
I'm going to get my best effort each race and represent Team USA to the best of my ability and hopefully bring home some more hardware.
Tori Husk is coming to the wall.
And a surprise silver for U.S. swimmer Tori Husk in the 100-meter free, her third medal of the game so far.
I really trusted in my race plan and my coach and what he was telling me, so I knew it was possible, but it's still so excited to be on the podium again, and I think that the competition really brought out the best in me.
I saw you hug your parents. I know swimming is a family sport in the sense that your parents are there, they drop you off, they're there for all the practices. What's it been like to share these medals with your family?
It's been so nice, especially after Tokyo when they couldn't come because of COVID. It's so nice to get to share these moments with them. It makes it so much more special.
Edwards left alone, splash.
Veterans LeBron James and Kevin Durant leading an all-star men's basketball squad to a smooth victory over South Sudan. Now heading into the knockout round as the team goes for its 5th straight gold medal. But it was a tough day for the men's gymnastics team after a monumental bronze finish in the team final. Both Fred Richard and Paul Judah fell short in the individual all-around. And a disappointing Olympics continues for tennis star Coco Gauff, who was knocked out of the doubles tournament after losing in the 3rd round of singles competition. And on the men's side, Rafael Nadal's Olympics and possibly his career coming to an end as Nadal Alcaraz fell to the Americans.
She does have a great run going. Oh!
went for the front flip. We have not seen that in competition here in Paris.
In women's BMX freestyle, a heartbreaking moment for five-time world champion Hannah Roberts, who crashed but triumphed for her teammate.
And Paris Benegas has jumped into second place with a 90.70.
Paris Benegas coming out of the gate with a strong performance to secure silver.
In the triathlon, pollution nearly led to the swimming portion being called off. But today, organizers felt it was safe enough to jump in. Athletes say the toughest part was the current.
Here's Kelly Chang, one of the great players in the world, and she puts it away.
American beach volleyball duo Kelly Chang and Sarah Hughes winning a hard-fought match against France as they strive for gold.
Snoop Dogg is in the house.
Cheered on by their biggest fan, none other than rapper Snoop Dogg.
For more on Katie Ledecky's big day in the pool, Allison Schmitt joins me now. She's a four-time Olympian and 10-time Olympic medalist who has raced alongside Ledecky in 2 Olympics, winning gold and silver in the 4x200-meter relays together. So, Allison, you know Katie Ledecky. You're an Olympian yourself, a champion. What makes her so special?
All around human being. I mean, her work ethic is top notch. You see it every time she dives in the water. Being on her relays, I know that if she's at the end, we've got the best chance at gold. So it's awesome to see her dive in, especially today in the 1500. As soon as she dove in the water, the race was won right there.
When you talk about relay teams, it's interesting you talk about that, and you're surrounded by the best in the world, and they're on your team, and they're your friends. When you get to the Olympics, is everyone cool, or are people nervous? I mean, what's the vibe like?
It's just another pool at the biggest stage that you could possibly be at. So that's really cool. But we've practiced for it. We've done it day in and day out. And a pool is a pool. So that's what we do. We're professionals in that way. We've trained our whole lives for that. So we get so excited when we get to stand up behind the blocks and dive into that pool for the Olympics.
How is Team USA when it comes to men's swimming and women's swimming doing in the Paris Games?
It's crazy. I mean, Team USA, I'm so biased. Go USA, always cheering so loud for them, but it's great to see how much that the sport of swimming has grown, and there's other countries that are coming up and on that medal podium. So to be able to see that, it just speaks on volumes of the growth of the sport, and I just hope that USA keeps finishing strong.
Yeah, no, I hope so too. Do you think Ledecky breaks all the records? Do you think she becomes the most decorated female athlete ever in the Olympics for Team USA, and also the most gold medals?
Of course. I mean, she's almost already there. So to be able to see her a few more times in this Olympics, there goes those records out the door.
So I had a chance to talk to her right after she won the gold medal today. I asked her about her training and the people that are pushing her. Here's what she had to say. Talk to me about your team, the way you train your coach. I know they mean so much to you. Did they get you ready for these Paris Games?
For sure, yeah. I mean, I was thinking of them all during the race, just of the sets that we did and all the things that we did to prepare for the moment. So I relied on my training and that confidence that I get from my training.
So Katie Ledecky has decided to train with male swimmers. She wants to chase them down in the pool. She trains at the University of Florida in Gainesville. How does that make her, do you think, a better swimmer? And is she somebody who's, and I guess when you were an Olympian too, are you constantly trying to beat yourself every day, essentially be better than you were yesterday?
Yes, you show up and you have to give your 100%. Even if you're at 30% that day, you give 100% so you hit that 30%. But yeah, training with guys has really helped me out. I've been from mostly a male program as well. I've trained. Michael Phelps has been my teammate since 2005. So to be able to see the best males in the world and be able to train alongside them really helps us out as females as well.
What do you think separates that athlete, the athlete that gets to the trials, or the athlete that maybe is the best in college, and then the athlete that gets to Paris? What's like the one thing you think that separates those two athletes?
A holistic approach. So it's not just physical, it's not just mental. You have to combine all of them together and really work on it inside the pool and outside the pool to make it work in the pool.
Allison Schmitt, it's always great to get the take of an Olympic champion. So thanks for joining Top Story tonight.
Thank you so much.
For more on today's events, we're joined now by an Olympics broadcasting legend, Jimmy Roberts, who is in Paris this year covering his 20th Olympic Games. Roberts worked his first games as a production assistant back in 1980 when Team USA defeated the Soviet Union on that immortal rink in Lake Placid, the Miracle on Ice. More than 2 decades later, he would interview 2 members of that team for NBC. Mike Uruzioni and Jim Craig after they helped light the Olympic flame at the 2002 Winter Games in Salt Lake City.
Wow.
His name has become synonymous with NBC's coverage of the Olympic Games over the years, and we are honored to welcome Jimmy to Top Story tonight. Jimmy, thanks so much for being here.
Tom, I look at those pictures. It seems like just yesterday, but I got to say, interviewing those guys at the Salt Lake Games, that was just one of the high points of my career. It was stunning.
Since we're talking about your career and sort of the moments covering the Olympics, you look behind you, you see this beautiful view. What have the Paris Games been like so far?
I think they've been remarkable. I think that, you know, the Games, there's a consistency to the Olympic Games. There are always surprises. There are things that come out of left field, which are so wonderful. And then there are people like Katie Ledecky, who you just root for. I mean, I think she's kind of like Halley's Comet. You know, I think that it's entirely possible we don't have an appropriate appreciation for what we're watching. I mean, she hasn't lost in the 1,500 meters since the Obama administration.
Yeah.
That'd be the first Obama administration.
And she's still hungry. I just interviewed her. We saw it earlier in the broadcast. I mean, she's an incredible competitor.
Yeah, and she's remarkable, and she's modest, and, you know, she's accomplished. She's, you know, there was a great shot on the broadcast tonight of a little girl. You know, she had to have been 8 or 10 years old, and as Katie was walking out, she caught her eye and waved to her. And the reaction of this little girl really is, for me, what the Olympics are all about. They really make an impact on people. And there's, you know, for all that's wrong with it, there's so much more that's right with it. And I just think it's, you know, once every 2 years, winter and summer, we get to come to a place where people have the opportunity of a lifetime, and that's rare.
Yeah. Let's talk about some other sports. Team USA men's basketball, okay? There was the Dream Team in '92. You covered them. These are being called the Avengers, this team. Will they win the gold? What do you think?
I got news for you. If they don't win the gold, it'll be one of the biggest upsets in Olympic history. I know that they won tonight against South Sudan relatively easily. It wasn't quite as easily as I think a lot of people would have liked, but remember, they only beat them by 1 point in a warm-up game, you know, a couple of weeks ago. The world is catching up, and it's a lot because of what happened in Barcelona with the Dream Team. I mean, you look at the first couple of rounds of the NBA draft, and you see plenty of names that are not from the United States. You see the NBA's most valuable player, not from the United States. You see the first draft pick from the NBA draft most recently, a Frenchman, Victor Wembanyama.
No, France has an incredible team this year.
They do.
And an incredible team.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you about some upsets, right? Because there have been some big names. We were just talking about the NBA in tennis. Coco Gauff, Nadal, Alcaraz, all losing today. Singles, doubles. What do you think is happening there in tennis?
Well, first of all, let's talk about Nadal. You know, we talked about Katie Ledecky hasn't lost in 14 years, I think it is, in the 1,500 meters. 14 is an important number also for Rafael Nadal here in this city. Of course, he's won 14 French Opens. And, you know, you talk about a momentous moment. We could have seen his last, you know, piece of competition, certainly at Roland Garros, but perhaps as a 38-year-old, he's ranked 161st in the world. Are we ever going to get a chance to see him again? I don't think it's an upset that he lost in singles and he got absolutely thrashed by Novak Djokovic. That's to be expected, I think. But to have lost with Carlos Alcaraz, I think it was somewhat of an upset. I think a lot of people thought that perhaps without the physical demands of singles tennis and playing with Alcaraz, who's really the best player in the world right now.
But it's new for them. They essentially were rookies as a team.
Right.
And that catches up to you in doubles. But it's funny, with the end of Nadal, you have the beginning of Alcaraz, who many think could be one of the greats ever.
Yeah.
Coco Gauff, what's happened there?
Listen, you know, it's interesting. It's very, very similar to golf. In tennis, the best players win more often when they're supposed to. But it happens. And I think that, you know, this is something that happens in the Olympics. We see it happen. I think back on one of the biggest upsets in the history of the Olympic Games that happened in Sydney. There was a Russian wrestler, a Soviet wrestler. Roland Gardner won, but Alexander Karelin, who hadn't lost in, I haven't done my research now, but in forever. And Roland Gardner was supposed to be an afterthought, and he wasn't. It happens at the Olympics.
Finally, I want to ask you, what else are you looking forward to in these Paris Games?
You know, I'm looking forward to everything. I thought that there was a great moment today. Maybe not something that caught everybody's eye, but the French had spent $1.5 billion to clean up the Seine.
Oh, yeah.
And today, a French woman won the triathlon in the Seine. I thought that that was a pretty cool moment.
And the ironic thing was a lot of those triathletes swallowed the Seine water. They said they drank about a liter of it because the current was so strong.
Yeah, and, you know, in terms of, you know, who we've been looking forward to seeing and still hasn't, you know, been enough of an anticipation, I think Simone Biles. I mean, she's 27 years old. She's the oldest woman to win a gold medal in gymnastics in 60 years, and she is not done yet, you know? So I think an opportunity to look at the GOATs, Katie Ledecky, Simone Biles, I think that's, you know, that's something that's great about the Olympics.
It's an incredible era for Team USA. Again, when we said Olympics broadcasting legend, we weren't joking. Jimmy Roberts, my friend, my neighbor, we thank you so much for being here tonight.
We'll have dinner back.
I owe you dinner when we get back.
All right, that's
Jimmy Roberts, everyone. And we will get back to our Olympics coverage a little later. Now to our other major headline tonight, former President Trump's fiery appearance this afternoon at a conference by the National Association of Black Journalists. Trump under fire for claiming his newly minted 2024 rival, Vice President Kamala Harris, recently became black and defended his remarks about what he has called black jobs. Garrett Haake has more on the growing political fallout.
Former President Trump facing fierce backlash tonight after falsely claiming Vice President Harris, who went to a historically black college and is a member of a black sorority, did not identify as black.
I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black? I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
The White House responding in real time.
What you just read out to me is repulsive. It's insulting.
Harris is the daughter of Indian and Jamaican immigrants. Her campaign tonight saying, quote, today's tirade is simply a taste of the chaos and division that has been a hallmark of Trump's MAGA rallies this entire campaign, and called on him to debate. It all unfolded during an often combative interview at a black journalism conference. The former president there to court black voters.
I've done so much for the black population of this country, including employment, including opportunity zones.
But later was pressed about his comments that the record number of migrants have hit the black population hard, taking what he termed black jobs.
Coming from the border are millions and millions of people that happen to be taking black jobs. You had the best.
What exactly is a black job, sir?
A black job is anybody that has a job. That's what it is. Anybody that has a job.
All right.
And they're taking the employment away from black people.
The Trump campaign has been going after Harris on immigration.
She unleashed the worst border crisis in American history on her watch.
But Harris flipping the script overnight, pointing to Trump's efforts to scuttle a bipartisan border bill he said wasn't tough enough.
He tanked the bipartisan deal because he thought it would help him win an election. Which goes to show Donald Trump does not care about border security. He only cares about himself.
Trump defiant tonight, blasting the questions at that event as rude and nasty. While a source close to the Harris campaign tells NBC News they saw the former president's response as completely unhinged and painful. Tom?
Garrett Haake from the campaign trail tonight. Garrett, we thank you for that. We want to turn now to the other major headline, the breaking news out of the Middle East. Iranian state media reporting that a Hamas political leader has been assassinated in northern Tehran. They say he was visiting Iran for the inauguration of the country's new president when he was killed by an airborne guided projectile. Israel has not yet claimed responsibility for that attack, but the assassination now threatening to derail hopes for a ceasefire in Gaza. NBC's Raf Sanchez has the latest.
Tonight, cries for revenge against Israel echoing across the Middle East after the brazen assassination of Hamas's political chief in the heart of the Iranian capital. Ismail Haniyeh killed in an Israeli missile strike just hours after meeting Iran's supreme leader, according to state media. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu tonight refusing to say if his country was responsible, but warning Israel will exact a heavy price for any aggression against us. Now, fears growing that Haniyeh's violent death could derail fragile ceasefire talks and spark a wider war. The White House racing to keep diplomacy alive.
I think it's too soon to know what any of these reported events could mean for the ceasefire deal. That doesn't mean we're going to stop working on it.
84-year-old Oded Lifshitz, kidnapped on October 7th, has been held hostage in Gaza for 299 days. We met his grandson, Daniel.
Do you think Benjamin Netanyahu is serious about getting a deal to bring the hostages home?
I think that if he's not serious about getting the hostages home, the Americans need to make all the necessary pressure that he will do so.
1,000 miles away from Iran, in Beirut, the capital of Lebanon, Hezbollah confirming one of its top commanders was killed by an Israeli strike. Israel says Fouad Shukr was responsible for the deaths of 12 children in a rocket attack. But Lebanon says this brother and sister were also killed in the Israeli bombing, a cycle of revenge that's taking the region to the brink of war.
And with Israel bracing for retaliation on multiple fronts tonight, the State Department issuing a stark new warning to U.S. citizens: get out of South Lebanon because new fighting may be about to erupt. Tom?
Raf Sanchez for us tonight. Raf, we thank you for that. For more on the escalating tensions in the Middle East, we're going to turn over to Chief Foreign Correspondent Richard Engel, who joins us right here in Paris. Richard, you've covered this area for more than a decade now. You know what's going on here. Is this a turning point in this war?
I don't think we know yet, and I would watch what happens tomorrow when Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, speaks. Usually when he speaks, he delivers the official Hezbollah response, and following his speeches, there are often military actions, oftentimes military assaults, rocket assaults against Israel, against Israeli military bases. What we saw over the last several days were two targeted strikes by Israel, although Israel hasn't acknowledged the attack on the Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh, although I think there's little doubt that Israel was responsible. But although each was targeted, they're both very, very different. The one on the Hezbollah leader was against a secretive militant leader who'd been living in hiding for decades. He was wanted by the United States going back to the 1983 attack in Beirut that killed hundreds of American Marines. He was the second in command, the top military leader of Hezbollah. His picture wasn't known, only released after he was killed. So that was an intelligence-based attack on a militant leader in Beirut. What happened in Iran was of a totally different category. The Hamas leader was a political leader. He was well known. He operated openly in public. I've met him. Many journalists have met him. He was not hard to find. He was operating in Qatar, before that in Istanbul. And then to target him in Iran, in Tehran, right after he had met the country's supreme leader during inaugural events, is clearly a message. It is something that Iran will take and seems to be taking as a provocation, as an offense to attack a guest of the state just after he had met the supreme leader. Very different kinds of attacks.
Richard, real quick, briefly, if you can, I've heard Israeli diplomats, former Israeli diplomats, say there's no way these attacks could have happened without the knowledge and or the help of the United States. Do you believe that?
I think that's probably the case for Hezbollah, not the case for Ismail Haniyeh. He was part of the negotiating team. The U.S. is pushing negotiations with Hamas, and now you see one side of the negotiations killing a member of the other negotiating delegation. I don't think that is something that the U.S. would have supported if it had known about openly, even if it has issues with Hamas, which the U.S. clearly does, considering a terrorist organization.
Richard Engel for us live tonight from Paris. Richard, we thank you for that. Still ahead, the plea deal with the masterminds behind 9/11, the breaking announcement about 3 men tied to the terror attack, what we're learning about that agreement, and catastrophic flooding in parts of Vermont. The state left unrecognizable in areas after excessive rainfall. The homes swept off their foundations and roads completely washed out. Plus, as we mentioned, it's been a historic day in the pool. We'll talk to 2 mega swimming fans. What they're saying the action inside the arena was like. Our coverage of the Olympics live from Paris continues. Stay with us.
He
We are back now with our special coverage of the Paris Olympics, and that was the incredible moment. French swimmer Léon Marchand came from behind in the 200-meter butterfly to win gold in his home country. Marchand, who also swims for Arizona State in the U.S., won 2 gold medals today and 3 overall so far. For the French, he is the face of the Paris Olympics. And we have 2 swimming enthusiasts joining us tonight on Top Stories, Top Fans. Husband and wife Dave and Courtney Thompson. They are Olympic super fans and former college swimmers who met on their swim team at Williams College in Massachusetts, and they are here in Paris to see all the swimming events, but also checking out a few other sports as well. Courtney and Dave, thanks so much for joining Top Story.
Thanks for having us, Tom.
What has it been like to watch swimming in that arena? I was there tonight. It is wild.
Yeah. Do you want to?
Yeah, it was amazing. I've never been in a pool quite like that. The party feel at the beginning of the meet was just awesome, and I can't imagine being a swimmer at that level. It was really fun.
Well, and having Léon Marchand doing what he's doing at these games and seeing the way that the home crowd is reacting to him is just the amount of energy they have is incredible.
Yeah, I've been in there and I've witnessed that, I've experienced it. How would you describe it? Because it gets so loud, and I've actually heard other swimmers say that when they're swimming, they're noticing it.
Yeah, especially, I mean, I think one of the great moments tonight was in his 200 breaststroke, right, when everyone is just chanting in unison every time he comes up for air. The place is just rocking, and I've got to imagine it gets everyone going. You almost want to root for him, even though you're rooting for Team USA. Talk to me about Katie Ledecky. What's it like to see her in the pool and to kind of witness history?
It was awesome. I mean, we got tickets for this session because we knew we wanted to see her swim, and I think it was really special to see her without a commercial break and see it live and see, you know, every lap that she was in. It was really awesome.
And you guys know how much it takes, right? It is so hard to get to the Olympics, but to do what she's doing, to sort of break all the records and keep it going, and she won by a lot. I mean, she's out there for that entire 15 minutes, and no one's catching up to her.
Well, and they said on the broadcast she has the top 20 times ever in the 1500, and to do it, you know, distance swimmers don't tend to have this kind of longevity, and to do it since age 15 in London up until now, 2024. I hope she comes back for 2028. It's just amazing what she's done.
So you guys are Americans who've had the great opportunity to witness the Olympics up close, right? And fans in America, we go to football, we go to baseball, I mean, basketball. We got great sports in America. But how do you think the Olympics are different? How would you explain it to people back home?
I think it's just the international flavor and just meeting fans from all over. I mean, we went to see some volleyball and didn't even see an American team, and it was such an amazing experience. So just seeing athletes at the highest level across so many disciplines, just cutting across kind of team allegiances and really just that national pride and everyone's home colors is really fun.
And I think it's just an awesome opportunity to highlight some athletes that work incredibly hard, are very good at what they do, and give them some of the love that they deserve.
What else are you guys looking for in the Paris Games?
Well, we were at gymnastics last night. Women's team all around. You guys have gotten great tickets so far. Yeah, that was amazing, right? Watching Simone and the team do what they did, and seeing her come back from her experience in Tokyo. And then we've got some running. On Friday, track and field session. We're former swimmers, now we run more, so we've started to get more. You guys are set.
Will you do the same thing in 4 years in Los Angeles? Would you want to go to those games?
I think we might have to try it out.
The exciting thing there is the swimming's going to be in the football stadium.
Yeah.
So that would be a cool crowd experience to go to.
Definitely going to be different. Guys, thank you so much for joining our show, and I hope you guys have a great Olympics.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll have much more Olympics coverage throughout the broadcast, including our interview with the para-athlete who carried the Olympic torch with the help of a robotic exoskeleton. It's an incredible story. But we have other news to get to tonight as well, and the latest on the deadly listeria outbreak connected to sliced deli meat. Boar's Head now recalling an additional 7 million pounds of products. What consumers need to know. That's next. Back now with a look back. Here's a look at the first ever women's 100-meter Olympic final on this date in 1928. Team USA's Elizabeth Robinson crossing the finish line, becoming the first woman to win a gold medal for track and field. She was just 16 years old. A lot more Olympic history has been made here today, and we'll have much more from Paris and our new location as we showcase our set here in Paris. We're going to have that later in the broadcast, but we want to turn it over right now to our friend Yasmin Vesuvian in our Top Story studios with today's other headlines, including that verdict in the Black Swan murder trial. Good evening, Yasmin.
Tom, thank you. We're going to turn now to Top Stories news feed, starting with the plea deal just announced in connection to the terror attacks on September 11th. The Pentagon announcing that 3 men accused of plotting the attacks will plead guilty to some charges as early as next week at Guantanamo Bay. The 3 were initially charged in 2008. The details of the plea agreement have not yet been released. Unrest continuing across the UK in response to the fatal stabbing of 3 young girls at a dance event in Southport. Anti-immigration protesters in London clashing with police near the Prime Minister's residence and the Houses of Parliament. It's coming one day after a large group attacked police officers and a local mosque in Southport, the crowd chanting anti-Islam and anti-immigrant slogans. Police saying rioters falsely believe the 17-year-old male suspect in the stabbing is Muslim or an asylum seeker. An update on a deli meat recall linked to a deadly listeria outbreak. Boar's Head now expanding its recall to include 7 million additional pounds of deli and poultry items. Officials saying the listeria outbreak has resulted in at least 2 deaths and 33 hospitalizations across 13 states. Boar's Head initiated the recall last week after a liverwurst sample tested positive for the foodborne bacterial illness. And a Missouri man officially free after spending 34 years in a Missouri prison for a crime he did not commit. Video showing Christopher Dunn leaving court just yesterday after a judge overturned his first-degree murder conviction. He was sentenced to life in prison for a deadly shooting back in 1990, despite no physical evidence linking him to the crime. The 2 young witnesses that initially gave testimony later said they were coerced by police. All right, we want to go back to a story we spoke about earlier tonight, those contentious moments from former President Trump's appearance today at the National Association of Black Journalists. Trump now coming under fire for saying that Vice President Kamala Harris, quote, became black. For more on Trump's appearance today at NABJ, I want to bring in NBC News Washington correspondent Yamiche Alcindor, who was there. Yamiche, good to talk to you. Thanks for joining us on this. This was a very combative appearance. Trump was sparring repeatedly with one of the moderators, Rachel Scott of ABC News. What were some of the more contentious exchanges you witnessed, Yamiche?
Well, this really was a remarkable experience to have been in the room while former President Trump was really going back and forth and arguing and really disparaging, especially Rachel Scott of ABC News, a dear colleague of ours. There's this real sense that he came in there wanting to sort of spread things that were just not true, and was angry when she and the other journalists were pushing back on him saying things that just simply were lies. At one point, he was talking about the fact that, as you said, Vice President Harris was only considering herself Indian, and she had never really talked about the fact that she was black, and that became really contentious, going back and forth, because, of course, we know she went to a historically black college. She joined a historically black sorority. She's been very clear that her father is black, or was black, and that her mother was Indian. At no point in her lifetime has she not claimed her African-American and Caribbean-American heritage. So that was one really big contentious back and forth. The other one was Rachel Scott, who covers Congress, asked him about the January 6th attack on the Capitol and asked him, well, why would you want to pardon people who beat up police officers, who were dragging people through the halls of Congress, who broke laws and were convicted? And the former president said that he believes that those people should be pardoned. And he got really angry when she was pushing him on the idea that that was wrong and pushing him really to also explain himself. So there were a number of different contentions, but those were the 2 that really stuck out because, this was over a 34-minute period, and he just came out really from the very beginning saying that he was not being welcomed in the right way, Yasmin.
The conversation was supposed to last an hour, Yamiche, but as you said, only lasting 34 minutes. It seemed as if the Trump team pulled the plug early. What was the reaction to Trump's appearance in the room?
Well, this is a room full of black journalists. It's the National Association of Black Journalists. We meet every year in a different city. So these are people who do the job that me and you do. So they were really interested in hearing what he had to say. But when he started disparaging Rachel, which, again, is a dear colleague of ours, people started to get angry. And people started to also get angry when he was saying things like Vice President Harris isn't black, that she never claimed that. When we know as black people, but how offensive that is, given the fact that she's talked about the fact that her parents met as civil rights activists, that she was a little girl going to civil rights protests. She's made a big part of her career talking about racial injustice, talking about holding people accountable in other ways as a prosecutor. So I think there are a lot of people who are offended in the room. I also think it's not lost, and we have to also underscore that he was also really insulting NABJ. He was talking about the fact that there were sound issues and that it had all run late because of the association not really having our stuff together, when that just wasn't true. The sound was fine. fine. There was no issues, technical issues that I could see sitting there. I was only one row away, about 20 feet away from him. But he kept complaining about things that simply were not true. And so there were people in the room that were really also offended, because this is an organization that's been around for decades. And it's an illustrious organization where people felt like they had to band together to really have newsrooms that covered black people fairly. And to have that be insulted by the former president was also, I think, very bothersome and very offensive to some people in the room, including people who founded the organization.
How is the Harris camp responding tonight, and how might they capitalize, Yamiche, on this moment?
Well, the Harris campaign is definitely capitalizing on this. Within a few minutes, their rapid response was already tweeting out different responses to the former president, talking about her racial heritage. And then they also put out a statement that I want to read part of it, because as I was getting ready for this, I thought we should definitely put this into their words. They said the hostility Donald Trump showed on stage today is the same hostility he has shown throughout his life, they say. They also said today's tirade is simply a taste of the chaos and division that has been a hallmark of Trump's MAGA rallies this entire campaign. It's also exactly what the American people will see from across the debate stage. So they were using this moment to push him to have a debate. And they said all Donald Trump needs to do is stop playing games and actually show up to the debate on September 10th. And there is this sort of mantra that that Vice President Harris has started to say, which is, say it to my face. This idea that she really wants Donald Trump to say what all the different things that he's been saying about her, whether it's that she was a bad prosecutor, that she was too soft on crime, that she messed up the border, and there's the border chaos is because of her, or in this case, that she's questioning her heritage and how she's talked about her identity. She's basically saying, come say it to my face on September 10th on the debate stage. So we'll have to see whether or not that actually happens, because the Trump campaign and Donald Trump so far has not confirmed that he wants to do that debate still.
Yeah, if they debate, maybe the one and only time they debate before November. Yamiche Alcindor, thank you for taking the time. Appreciate it. Want to get to the severe weather threat coast to coast in northern Vermont. Storms on the move and flood watches in effect after heavy rain left parts of the state underwater. And then out west, a new wildfire emergency in Colorado. One person killed and hundreds of homes evacuated. The fires there among almost 100 burning in the west. Liz Kreutz reports.
A summer of wildfire not letting up, with multiple infernos now raging in Colorado.
If the wind switches directions, I think that we could be in big trouble.
The Stone Canyon fire northwest of Denver, now deadly. One person was killed after flames tore through homes in the town of Lyons. 5 structures up in smoke. And late today, a new fire burning homes in the hills of Boulder. Further south, the quarry fire igniting overnight, almost 600 homes evacuated.
There was a flashlight shining in the window, and it was the sheriff telling us we had to evacuate.
The fire small but challenging, with crews and resources stretched thin. Joe Lorenz has been watching the fire grow.
What's your biggest concern right now? I don't want to lose my home. I don't want to lose my neighbors.
Every neighborhood in this facility is at risk. This fire is not an easy fight. The terrain is treacherous.
And this is what they're talking about here, this steep terrain. On top of that, another big concern are rattlesnakes. There are a lot of them here, making it even more dangerous and challenging for firefighters to do their job and get that under control.
This fire among 95 burning across the West, including in Oregon, Washington, and California, where crews are getting a handle on the massive park fire after it chewed through more than 300 structures. As evacuees return home, some finding nothing left behind.
It's just that hope that maybe you'll flip something over and it won't be ashes.
And Yasmin, as this fire continues to burn here, officials have not yet given a cause of this fire, but with resources stretched thin across the state with multiple fires burning right now, the governor tonight has called in the National Guard to help manage these fires. Yasmin.
Thank you to Liz Kreutz for that. Now to the latest in a murder case that's being called the Black Swan trial. A former ballerina charged in the fatal shooting of her husband, now found guilty of manslaughter in Florida only hours after a jury began considering her claim that the shooting 4 years ago was in self-defense. NBC's Jesse Kirsch has the details.
The defendant is guilty of manslaughter, a lesser included offense.
Tonight, the former ballerina at the center of the so-called Black Swan murder trial is behind bars as a convicted killer. Late Tuesday, Ashley Benefield was stoic as a jury near Tampa, Florida, delivered its verdict. finding the 33-year-old guilty of manslaughter in the shooting death of her husband. His family speaking out.
No one wins in this case except that justice was served.
He loved his wife, he loved his girls, and he wanted to be here for them.
Benefield gained notoriety after killing her husband, Doug Benefield, in 2020.
He started coming towards me.
Testifying in her own defense, she alleged he was abusive, even hitting their dog so hard the pet was knocked unconscious. Benefield says after her husband struck her in the face, she shot him in self-defense.
And I started pulling the trigger. And it just kept coming.
The defendant's stepdaughter, Eva Benefield, said this after the verdict was announced.
I apologize to all the women who have gone through domestic violence situations. I think that what Ashley was doing was unfair to them. They deserve justice, and I'm very happy that my dad got the justice that he deserves.
We love her like God loves her, but you have to pay for your crime. And she's finally going to do that.
Prosecutors argued the evidence did not match the defendant's story, portraying Ashley Benefield as a mother intent on getting sole custody of the couple's young daughter.
This was a custody battle that this mother was going to win at all costs.
Benefield was charged with second-degree murder, but the jury found her guilty of the lesser crime.
Does that indicate that maybe they thought there was some element of self-defense here?
Especially in Florida, the difference between a successful self-defense claim and involuntary manslaughter or unintentional manslaughter is often a bit of a gray area. And this verdict may represent the notion that the jury may have been close to deciding self-defense, but really didn't get there and concluded that this may not have been an intentional killing, but it was, at minimum, a reckless or negligent killing.
An attorney for Ashley Benefield has not responded to NBC's request for comment, and her sentencing date has not yet been set.
This is the journey of the Olympic torch lit in Olympia, Greece on April 15th, traveling all the way through France to Paris. Snoop Dogg even part of the relay before it made its way to the Olympic cauldron on Friday. The relay is seen as a symbol of peace and unity that spreads the spirit of the Games. This year, there were 10,000 torchbearers here in France, including one athlete who took a major step for people with physical disabilities.
Step by step, para-athlete Kevin Piet showing the true meaning of the Olympic spirit. The 36-year-old paralyzed from the waist down, but walking the Olympic torch through France with the help of a robotic exoskeleton. The powerful moment shared across social media.
Wow, amazing, and look how happy he looks.
His family and friends right there to cheer him on.
It's a perfect day. It's really amazing. I don't know, the day is so beautiful. It's the first time the exoskeleton is in the street.
An accident leaving Kevin a paraplegic 11 years ago. Now he's an exoskeleton tester for Wondercraft and a torchbearer for the 2024 Olympics. One of the engineers, Maureen Petiot, proud to see Kevin and the device at work.
All of these children who wanted to take pictures with Kevin, like his superstar, and I was so proud of him, actually. So it was a very nice moment.
Petiot telling us the device can open new doors for those with physical disabilities, including access to anywhere with stairs. For Kevin, the chance to do things most people take for granted.
It's a perfect feeling, and I'm really happy to stand up now. And it's a new vision. It's a vision to a high level, and for me, it's amazing sensation.
Here in Paris, he says he hopes it will also lead to new opportunities for athletes.
I hope today and tomorrow we will create a new sport with exoskeleton. Imagine, it's so cool idea. And yes, the message is tomorrow we have a possibility to walking again in the street.
The company plans to release the device by early 2026. And on that journey too, Kevin is happy to carry the torch.
Incredible technology right there, and we thank Kevin for sharing his story. We thank you for watching this special edition of Top Story. I'm Tom Llamas, coming to you from Paris tonight, and we want to leave you with this incredible underwater shot of Katie Ledecky in action so fast, essentially no one else is even around her as she cemented herself in the Olympic history books tonight. We thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.